Beneath the quiet rhythm of your breathing, beneath the silent procession of your thoughts, beneath even the pulse of your heart, there is another song playing. It is older than memory, older than humanity, older even than the stars that gave birth to the atoms in your blood. It is the psalm written in your DNA, a river of codes so intricate and mysterious that even the most advanced science can only sketch its shoreline. Yet, if one dares to look past the sterile diagrams in textbooks and the tidy genetic charts in laboratories, this code begins to shimmer with a different kind of light. Not the fluorescent glow of a microscope slide, but something deeper, like the glint of sunlight on a key buried in the soil of your being. And the lock it opens is nothing less than the threshold between human limitation and godlike possibility. We speak of DNA in terms of biology, 4 letters, billions of sequences, the blueprint for life. But what if that language of adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine is only the outer garment? What if, like ancient manuscripts written in layers, there is a second text hidden beneath the first? The ancients hinted at this in myth and scripture, stories of divine fire hidden in clay, of sleeping giants, of atoms shaped from dust but animated by the breath of a creator. They spoke as if humanity was not merely a biological accident, but a deliberate vessel carrying a dormant inheritance, one that could awaken under the right conditions. Science calls it potential. Mystics call it awakening. In truth, these may be the same thing, 2 languages describing the same terrain, one mapping it in measurements and data, the other in symbols and visions. But there is a crucial difference. Science often asks what something is, while mystics ask why it is there at all. The hidden code in your DNA is not just the record of your ancestry or the recipe for your physical form. It may be the very architecture of your capacity for creation, transformation, and transcendence. Imagine your life as a vast cathedral. Most people walk only in the entry hall, admiring the carvings, perhaps lighting a candle. Few venture into the deeper chambers. Fewer still find the hidden spiral staircase behind the altar. And yet, that staircase is there in all of us, coiled within ourselves like a serpent sleeping in a ring. In the language of biology, it is the double helix. In the language of myth, it is the ladder between earth and heaven. In the language of energy, it is the current that could electrify every dormant neuron in your mind. When we speak of unlocking godlike powers, we are not conjuring images of lightning bolts thrown from mountaintops or the casual rearrangement of galaxies. Rather, we are speaking of the highest expressions of human potential, clarity of perception so sharp it cuts through illusion, creativity so abundant it borders on the miraculous, compassion so vast it feels like standing at the center of creation itself. Powers not to dominate, but to illuminate. These are not supernatural in the sense of defying nature. They are supernatural, the flowering of the deepest nature you already possess. You might ask, if this code exists, why has it been hidden? The answer may lie in the nature of all great treasures. Gold is not scattered on the surface of the earth, it is buried deep. Rare flowers do not bloom in the open desert, they wait in sheltered valleys. Perhaps the divine pattern in our DNA has remained unseen because it is not meant to be stumbled upon casually. It requires a certain readiness, an alignment of mind, body, and spirit, a willingness to go beyond comfort and into the unknown. In this sense, the hidden aspect of the code is not a deliberate concealment, but a natural safeguard. Consider how language evolves. A child hears the words of their parents long before they understand them. The meaning unfolds only as their mind grows into it. In the same way, our DNA has been singing its deeper message all along, but most of us hear it only as a hum beneath the noise of life. It is not that the music is absent, it is that we have not yet learned to listen. To truly hear it is to enter into a dialogue with the very fabric of your being, and through that dialogue, to awaken parts of yourself you did not know could exist. And yet, we must tread carefully. The idea of godlike powers can be seductive, drawing the ego into dreams of control or superiority. But the essence of this awakening is not about becoming something above others, It is about becoming something more than the narrow self you currently inhabit. The hidden code does not crown you a ruler, it invites you to dissolve into something infinitely larger, where the boundaries between self and all blur like ink in water. To awaken to this is not to stand taller than the world, but to kneel in awe before it. As we journey deeper into this exploration, the line between science and spirituality will soften. We will move through the architecture of the human genome as if it were a temple, each gene a doorway, each sequence a verse. We will trace the threads of myth and mystery that have hinted at this hidden inheritance for millennia. We will look at how these codes can be awakened, not by artificial manipulation, but by tuning ourselves to the resonance of our own highest nature. And as we go, you may begin to feel a quiet recognition, as if some part of you already knows this truth, has always known, and has been waiting for you to remember. This is not an ordinary remembering. It is not like recalling a childhood address or a forgotten face. It is more like waking from a long, heavy sleep and realizing that the dream was your entire life up until now. It is a remembering that changes you, not because it gives you something new, but because it strips away what was never truly yours. Beneath the layers of personality, fear, conditioning, and survival instinct, the hidden code gleams, pure, uncorrupted, ready. And so we begin here, at the threshold. You stand before the locked door, the key already in your hand, though you may not recognize it. Beyond this door lies not just knowledge, but a new dimension of experience. A space where the human and the divine are not opposites, but reflections in the same mirror. A place where the infinite is not somewhere else, it is within you, written in a script of light and matter, waiting to be read. To approach the hidden code within your DNA, one must set aside the habit of seeing the world as a sequence of disconnected events and instead begin to sense the living weave of it, a tapestry where every thread touches every other, where the smallest gesture ripples through the farthest reaches of the pattern. The first and perhaps most essential theme is that your DNA is not merely a static record. It is not a photograph of who you are, frozen in time. It is a living manuscript, a scroll that is written and rewritten in the very act of your living. Every breath, every thought, every emotion is an ink stroke on this scroll, shaping its song in ways both subtle and profound. In the language of molecular biology, the environment interacts with your genetic expression. Certain genes can be silenced, others awakened, based on signals from your body and your mind. This is known as epigenetics, but in a more mystical framing, it is the reminder that the script you inherited is not the end of the story, it is the prologue. The hidden code is like a symphony score, written with infinite potential, but the way it is played depends on the musician. And you are both the instrument and the musician, capable of transforming the melody by the way you hold the bell, the way you strike the keys, the way you let the music breathe. Another theme emerges here, the illusion of limitation. From childhood, we are taught a kind of narrative about ourselves, what we can do, what we cannot do, where we belong, where we will fail. These ideas settle into us like sediment, layer after layer, until they become the unexamined ground upon which we walk. But the hidden code whispers a different story. It tells us that much of what we call reality is a construct, a carefully maintained map that omits entire continents. This is not to say that the physical world is unreal, but that our perception of it is drastically narrowed. Our senses are tuned to only a sliver of the spectrum, our beliefs act as filters, permitting only certain truths to pass. The hidden code operates beyond these filters, waiting for the moment you dare to lift them. The ancient mystics spoke of this as the veils of Maya, the illusions that conceal the real nature of the self and the cosmos. In modern language, we might speak of cognitive biases, cultural conditioning, or psychological programming. Yet, whether viewed through the lens of philosophy or neuroscience, the effect is the same, a narrowing of perception. Awakening the hidden code in your DNA is less about adding something new and more about removing the scaffolding of falsehood that obscures what has always been there. It is the peeling back of paint to reveal the original mural beneath. Then there is the theme of resonance. Just as a tuning fork will vibrate when another fork of the same pitch is struck nearby, your DNA responds to vibrations, some physical, some mental, some energetic, that match its own deeper frequencies. This is why certain experiences, places, or even words can strike you with a force disproportionate to their apparent size. They are not creating something new in you, they are calling forth something that was already present. In this sense, spiritual practice, artistic creation, deep love, and moments of awe are all forms of resonance. They align you with the frequency of your own highest design. One must also consider the principle of mirrors. The hidden code is not a solitary script, it is reflected and refracted in the world around you. The same patterns that spiral in your DNA also spiral in galaxies and seashells, in the branching of trees and the flow of rivers. This is the ancient idea of as above, so below, that the microcosm and macrocosm are not merely similar, but expressions of the same underlying law. The double helix itself mirrors the twisting paths of energy seen in sacred symbols across cultures, the caduceus of Hermes, the entwined serpents of Mesoamerican myth, the twin channels of Kundalini in yogic tradition. These are not coincidences, but echoes, humanity sensing, across millennia, the shape of the code that lives in us all. And finally, we must address the paradox of the hidden code. It is both deeply personal and entirely universal. Your DNA is uniquely yours, the singular record of your ancestral journey, yet the fundamental language in which it is written is the same across all humanity, and beyond humanity, shared with the trees, the animals, even the simplest single-celled life. In one sense, this means your godlike powers are not powers over others, for they are the same powers that reside within them. The awakening is not a competition, but a reunion, a recognition of shared divinity refracted into countless forms. To explore these themes is to realize that the hidden code is not a mythic relic or a secret guarded in a vault. It is a living field you inhabit every moment. It is there when you speak, when you dream, when you grieve, when you love. The challenge is not in finding it, but in recognizing it for what it is. Like the sun obscured by clouds, it has been shining all along. The work is in learning to part the clouds. As we step forward into the next chapter, we will leave the abstract scaffolding of these concepts and move into the deep terrain of symbolism. We will wander through the allegories and archetypes that have carried this truth across generations, wrapped in stories so that it could survive even when the words of science did not yet exist to describe it. There, in the mirror world of myth, the hidden code takes on forms you can see, hear, and feel, so that what is locked in your cells might begin to stir in your soul. The language of symbols is older than the written word, older than the carved tablets of ancient empires, older even than the first flicker of firelight in a human cave. It is the tongue in which the subconscious dreams and in which the cosmos whispers to itself. To speak of the hidden code in your DNA without entering the realm of symbols is like describing an ocean by listing its chemical composition, accurate, perhaps, but devoid of the currents and the tides. It is here, in the weaving of myth and metaphor, that the hidden code reveals not only its structure but its personality, its intent. Imagine a serpent curled upon itself, a spiral of shimmering light, sleeping in the root of a great tree. This image appears again and again across cultures, as if humanity has been telling itself the same dream for thousands of years. In the Norse tradition, there is Yggdrasil, the world tree, whose roots and branches bind together the realms of existence, and around which the serpent Nhggr coils. In Hindu tradition, there is the Kundalini serpent, coiled at the base of the spine, waiting to ascend through the body's energy centers. In the temples of ancient Egypt, the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, symbolize the eternal cycle of death and rebirth. And in every case, the serpent is not merely an animal, it is the living pattern of life's unfolding, the same spiral that turns in your DNA. This spiral is the first signature of the hidden code, the shape of potential energy at rest and in motion. To awaken it is to invite it to uncoil, to rise, to move through the chambers of the self like a river of light. This is no small act. Myths warn that such awakenings can be overwhelming, that the unprepared may be swept away by the force of what they unleash. The reason is simple: the code is not merely a source of power, but a mirror. It will show you everything you are, your radiance and your shadow, in equal clarity. Another ancient image is the ladder, or the bridge, that connects the earth to the heavens. Jacob's ladder in biblical vision, the rainbow bridge Bifrost in Norse myth, the ancient Shekinah, all are symbols of ascent, of a pathway linking the finite to the infinite. In the hidden code, the ladder is the double helix itself, a structure whose rungs carry not only the information for your physical body but, in symbolic language, the steps of your inner evolution. To climb this ladder is not a matter of physical height but of vibrational refinement. Each step upward corresponds to a shift in consciousness, a shedding of dense patterns in favor of lighter, more expansive ones. Then there is the image of the garden, the enclosed, sacred space where the human and the divine meet. Eden in the book of Genesis, the Elysian fields of Greek myth, the sacred groves of Celtic lore, these are not merely imagined landscapes. They are maps of the inner terrain, places where the hidden code grows in its purest form. In these gardens, life is not separate from consciousness. The plants, the waters, the stones are living symbols of the forces that shape you. To return to the garden is to return to the untouched state of your DNA, before it was covered over with the dust of generational trauma, societal conditioning, and the weight of unhealed history. Yet perhaps the most potent symbol is that of the hidden book, a text of immense power, often locked, guarded, or written in a language no one remembers. In countless myths, a hero or seeker must find this book and learn to read its script. This is the hidden code itself, the story of your origin, written in the alphabet of life. The fact that it is hidden is crucial. If it were easy to read, its value would diminish, its power misused. In psychological terms, this book is the unconscious mind, holding patterns, memories, and truths that must be approached with reverence. In biological terms, it is the unexpressed potential in your genetic code, waiting for the signal to come alive. The symbolic narratives do more than illustrate the hidden code, they provide the keys to interacting with it. The serpent teaches us to awaken energy and allow it to move freely. The ladder teaches us that growth is a step-by-step process, each stage preparing us for the next. The garden reminds us of the purity and harmony that is our birthright. The hidden book teaches us the necessity of patience, discipline, and courage in unlocking the deepest truths. Together, they form a kind of mythic instruction manual, one that bypasses the rational mind and speaks directly to the part of you that already understands, because it has lived these stories in countless forms. When you read these myths with the hidden code in mind, something curious happens. They stop feeling like distant, decorative tales and begin to feel autobiographical. The hero's journey is no longer the story of some ancient figure, it is your story. The serpent sleeping in the roots is your dormant potential. The ladder is the pathway of your own transformation. The garden is the unspoiled terrain of your own soul. And the hidden book is your own DNA, quietly carrying a message that has been awaiting your attention since the moment of your conception. The beauty of symbolic language is that it allows each person to find their own doorway into the mystery. One person may connect most strongly to the serpent, feeling its coiled presence in meditation or in moments of deep creativity. Another may dream of the ladder, sensing each step as a milestone in their awakening. Another may find themselves walking in the garden in their imagination, guided to the fountain or the tree that offers the wisdom they need. In this way, the code reveals itself uniquely to each seeker, yet the essence remains the same, an invitation to remember what has always been yours. These stories are not ornaments to the truth, they are vessels for it. And as you let them work on you, as you allow their imagery to seep into your waking life, you may begin to notice subtle changes. Perhaps your dreams become more vivid. Perhaps you feel a stirring of energy when you hear certain words. Perhaps the patterns in leaves, waves, or clouds begin to seem strangely familiar. These are signs that the code is beginning to stir, that the symbols have done their work in loosening the soil around its roots. In the next phase, we will step away from the dreamlike terrain of symbols and descend into the realm of practical life. We will explore how to carry the wisdom of these narratives into the everyday, how to live in such a way that the hidden code does not merely awaken in moments of meditation or mythic vision, but expresses itself in the way you speak, create, heal, and choose. For the code's true purpose is not to remain an idea or an image, it is to become a living force, shaping the reality you inhabit. To awaken to the hidden code in your DNA is not to enter a dream from which you must inevitably wake, it is to begin living in a different kind of reality altogether. And yet, this reality is not separate from the world of grocery lists, morning commutes, and difficult conversations. Rather, it infuses these seemingly ordinary events with a depth and vitality that makes them almost unrecognizable. If the symbolic narratives are the constellations in the sky, practical integration is learning how to navigate by them when your feet are on the ground. The first truth of integration is that the hidden code does not demand grand rituals or constant mystical ecstasy. In fact, it resists being confined to special moments. It is not a flame that burns only in sacred halls, it is a current meant to run through the wiring of daily life. The true art lies in weaving awareness into the simple acts, the way you eat, the way you breathe, the way you listen to someone without rushing to respond. Every small moment is a keyhole through which the larger pattern can reveal itself. And as you act from this awareness, the pattern shifts, not only within you but in the fabric of your relationships, your work, and your environment. When you recognize the code as a living presence, you begin to see that it responds to how you treat yourself. Your choices, what you consume, how you rest, what thoughts you entertain, are like tuning dials on the frequency of your DNA's expression. A mind perpetually clouded with fear and resentment sends one set of instructions to the body, a mind steeped in clarity and gratitude sends another. This is not metaphorical. In the field of epigenetics, researchers have observed how emotional states can influence the chemical markers that turn genes on or off. In other words, how you feel is not just a passing experience, it is a conversation with the deepest layers of your biology. The hidden code also thrives on alignment. This is not alignment in the sense of perfection or moral purity, but of congruence, when your thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony. Most people live in a constant state of inner friction, wanting one thing, saying another, and doing something else entirely. This friction not only dissipates your energy but sends contradictory signals to the code, leaving it in a state of suspended animation. When you begin to live in alignment, even in small ways, the code senses the clarity and responds. Decisions become easier, opportunities begin to cluster around you, and your life starts to feel less like a struggle against the current and more like a movement with it. Another crucial step in integration is learning to treat obstacles not as interruptions but as invitations. The hidden code is awakened not only by moments of joy and inspiration but by the alchemy of challenge. A difficult conversation, an unexpected loss, a period of uncertainty, these are not simply detours. They are pressure points where the code can either contract into old patterns or expand into new capacities. In many myths, the hero is given a trial not to test their worthiness but to draw out a latent strength. In the same way, life will present you with circumstances precisely calibrated to activate the sequences in your DNA that correspond to resilience, creativity, and adaptation. The question is whether you meet them with resistance or with the willingness to learn. To live in dialogue with the hidden code is also to become aware of resonance in the choices you make about your environment. Just as the serpent awakens when it hears the right tone, your DNA responds to the frequencies that surround you: music, light, language, even the quality of silence in a room. Choosing environments that nourish rather than deplete you is not indulgence, it is cultivation. Likewise, the people you allow close to you shape the field in which your code expresses itself. Some relationships will stir the highest frequencies in you, while others will pull you back into old, constricted states. This does not mean withdrawing from everyone who challenges you. Growth often comes through friction, but it does mean becoming intentional about where and with whom you invest your deepest energy. And perhaps most importantly, integration means allowing the hidden code to guide your creative expression. Whether you paint, write, build, teach, garden, or speak, your creativity is one of the purest channels for the code's intelligence to flow into the world. This is not about producing something that others label as art, it is about letting your life itself become a work of art. When you cook a meal with reverence, when you speak with words that uplift, when you solve a problem with insight that seems to come from beyond you, these are all moments when the code is actively shaping reality through you. The real-world implications of living in harmony with your hidden code are profound. You may find that your health improves, not as a miracle cure but as a natural result of reduced stress, clearer intention, and more aligned living. You may discover that your relationships deepen, because you are no longer approaching them from a place of unconscious need but from a place of shared abundance. You may notice that your work, even if it does not change in title or form, begins to feel more like a calling than a chore. And you may experience a quiet yet undeniable shift in your sense of identity, from a separate individual navigating a hostile universe to a participant in a vast, intelligent, and benevolent pattern. This is where the hidden code stops being an abstract concept and becomes the architecture of your days. You are no longer seeking it, you are living it. And once you live it, the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary blurs. The morning sunlight becomes as sacred as the moment of insight and meditation. The difficult meeting at work becomes as much a spiritual exercise as the quiet walk in nature. The code is not something you return to, it is the current you inhabit, the language you speak without translation. From here, we turn to the final movement of our exploration, the conclusion and transformational call. There, we will draw together the threads, scientific, symbolic, practical, into one unified invitation, to step fully into the inheritance that has been waiting within you since the moment your first self formed. The key is in your hand. The door is before you. The choice, as always, is yours. There comes a moment in every true journey when you realize that the destination you thought you were seeking was never somewhere out there. The path you have been walking does not lead away from yourself but toward the deepest center of your own being. This is the revelation that awaits anyone who dares to engage with the hidden code in their DNA. The treasure is not at the end of the map, it is the map itself, and the hands holding it are your own. We began with the idea that your DNA is more than a blueprint for building a body, that it is a living manuscript containing a message older than the earth itself. We trace the way science and mysticism converge upon this truth, one speaking in the language of molecules and epigenetic switches, the other in the imagery of serpents, ladders, gardens, and hidden books. We examined how symbols act as keys, opening chambers of understanding that the rational mind alone cannot access. We explored the ways in which this awareness can be woven into your daily life, transforming the mundane into the miraculous through alignment, resonance, and conscious choice. And now we stand here, at the threshold of something more than knowledge, a choice to embody what you have glimpsed. The hidden code will not awaken because you read about it, or even because you believe in it, it awakens because you live in a way that invites it to unfold. It is a seed, and seeds require not just light, but water, soil, and time. The light is your awareness. The water is your intention. The soil is your consistent action in alignment with that intention. And time is the patient devotion that allows transformation to ripen at its own pace. The call is simple, though its simplicity hides a depth of power. Live as though the infinite intelligence woven into your cells is not a distant dream, but a present companion. Begin to speak with it. Ask it questions in moments of stillness. Notice how your body feels when you imagine certain choices, as if your cells are whispering their counsel. Recognize the signs, those moments when life aligns so perfectly that it feels as if some invisible hand is arranging events. That hand is not separate from you, it is the expression of the code working in concert with the field of reality itself. This awakening is not for the few, it is the birthright of all. And yet, it will always feel personal, intimate, as though the entire cosmos leaned down to whisper directly into your ear. In that intimacy lies both the gift and the responsibility. For to awaken is to see more clearly, and to see more clearly is to be called to act with greater integrity. You cannot unknow what you have come to understand. Once you have glimpsed the threads connecting all things, the illusion of separation loses its grip. You begin to realize that harming another is, in some subtle yet absolute way, harming yourself. Likewise, uplifting another is to uplift yourself, for you are different expressions of the same living code. In practical terms, this means your daily life becomes an arena for conscious creation. Every conversation becomes a chance to speak from a place of clarity rather than reaction. Every decision about how you use your time becomes a seed planted in the garden of your future. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to climb another rung on the ladder, to refine the vibration of your being. And with each step, the dormant sequences within your DNA respond, not as some mystical force imposed from without, but as the natural blossoming of what you already are. It is worth noting that this awakening does not remove you from the world's pain or complexity. You will still face uncertainty. You will still encounter moments of grief, anger, and confusion. But you will meet them differently, not as a victim tossed about by forces beyond your control, but as a conscious participant in the weaving of reality. The hidden code does not promise immunity from life, it offers mastery within it. Perhaps the most transformative shift is this: you cease to live in pursuit of a future moment when you will finally arrive. Instead, you live as though you were already in the temple, already holding the book, already breathing the air of the garden. You realize that every breath is a rung on the ladder, every heartbeat a pulse from the serpent's coil. You are no longer trying to become something, you are unveiling what you have always been. And so, here is the call: dare to live from the recognition that you are both human and more than human, that the atoms in your body are the dust of stars, and the pattern of those atoms carries the signature of an intelligence vast beyond measure. Let your thoughts, words, and actions be informed by that knowing. Seek out the experiences, people, and places that awaken resonance within you. Feed your body as though it were the sacred vessel of an ancient code. Feed your mind with ideas that expand rather than shrink your vision. Feed your spirit with moments of awe, gratitude, and love. These are the nutrients that allow the code to flourish. When you choose to live this way, you step into a lineage of awakeners, those who have, across time and culture, carried the same flame. Some called it enlightenment, others called it divine union, others simply called it remembering. Whatever the name, it is the same movement, the spiral uncoiling, the ladder rising, the garden blooming, the book opening. And in the end, you will see that the godlike powers were never about control, dominance, or the bending of nature to your will. They are about harmony, vision, and the ability to create in alignment with the deeper order of life. They are about becoming a living bridge between the finite and the infinite, a conduit through which the intelligence of the cosmos flows into form. This is what it means to be fully alive. This is what it means to awaken the hidden code in your DNA. The door stands before you. The key is in your hand. The choice is now. Step through, and watch the world, and yourself, become something you once thought was only possible in dreams. For the dream is over. You are awake.